I don't really know what drew me to this subject for this painting, but the death of Orpheus, this mythological poet from antiquity, always piqued my interest. Not the famous episode where he is going in Hades to bring back unsuccessfully his Dulcinea Eurydice, but the very end of the story where the Maenad, female followers of pagan god Dionysus, got angry over his mourning and contemptuous behavior and torn his body into pieces during a bacchanal orgy. Only his head remained and was found by some nymphs in a river. The story always felt strange to me, and I was not the only one, it seems, since a lot of painters through history were drawn as well by the subject and represented it in many paintings. Here a little selection of my favorites one. We have the Pre-Raphaelite artist John William Waterhouse, and the most symbolist ones with Jean Delville. I like this one as well from Khalil Gibran, but the most famous one is without doubt the one by Gustave Moreau. All beautifully executed and all giving a sense of mystery and eeriness to the subject that many people until now cannot really understand the mythical or archetypal meaning behind this terrible death. I will come back to it a bit later on, and I will talk now about the process of this painting and what were my objectives. So even if it is not really Orpheus that I am representing now, this head probably of a young man laying dramatically and romantically in the middle of roses was really inspired by this Orpheus painting. I really wanted to work on skin tones, and by choosing this subject I was able to focus really on the face and work more precisely on skin tones, nuances and blending. I was also able to work the textures of skin, trying to make it as charnel and even, I would say, sensual as possible. I really wanted the face almost going out of the painting, giving the impression that you could touch the skin. I hope I kind of managed to give this effect of texture and thickness of the skin, since things can be still improved, but I was definitely happy with the result, and I definitely want to do more paintings this way in the future. Maybe more imaginative portraits where I can really work on the skin and expression of the face. Yes, this portrait is imaginative. The initial sketch is from imagination. Then I looked for some reference face picture for the skin tones and I tried to adapt them to the painting. But the expression of the face came to me naturally, if it makes sense. It came out of the painting without really thinking. I know that I wanted my Orpheus having a face a bit dreamy, his lips half open, almost with a light smile, even if his death is tragic, but maybe my Orpheus is not really dead. As I said, I was inspired by this subject, but it doesn't mean that I'm actually painting Orpheus. Now coming back to the technical process, I used what I would say the glazing technique. It means that I paint the very first layers very loosely to establish the main contrasts. These first layers do not attempt to be pretty and defined. I just want as much paint as possible on the canvas, and the thicker the better actually. I tried to position all the elements of the painting as accurately as possible. So for these first layers, I use only oil paint and walnut oil. Then we want to wait for the painting to dry completely before starting the second phase, where we will work with the finest layers and details. So maybe 2 weeks after the painting was completely dry, and it was now possible to sand it down. Sanding down the painting is becoming, in my opinion, one of the most important steps for achieving a certain effect with oil paint. The effect I want to achieve is more classical, but also I want to achieve a more sfumato effect, being able to really insist on some details and to make other details less visible. It is also this way that you can give the feeling of the face coming out of the painting by omitting some details. You will see later on that these details will be blurred around the neck, around the ears, but also the hair and the roses are also a very important factor for achieving this effect. Some roses won't be really visible, but others will be really detailed in the foreground, with an effect of overlapping over the face of the character, casting a bit of shadow, which gives this effect of textures and three-dimensionality. The glazing technique was also an important part to achieve this effect. I added boiled linseed oil as a medium for this technique. The white is really concentrated on the forehead, on the cheeks, on the lips, and on the eyelids of the character, and the other parts, which are in the darkness, are more transparent. I used the glazing techniques more for these parts, and I used impasto technique more for the highlights, creating this strong contrast. Also for the hair, the lightest color is where I accumulated most of the painting, giving the feeling of volume. I won't talk more about the process. Actually, this video is not showing the full process. I'm thinking of making a Patreon where I will upload the full process with more comments on techniques of my oil paintings, since I think it is a waste to delete this footage. This will come soon, when I have time to do it, of course, something which is not easy, but I will let you know when it happens. Now back to the meaning of the death of Orpheus. As I said, I tried to look for a real meaning for the reason why Orpheus died this way, and I couldn't really find a real explanation. So I will come up with my own opinion. Orpheus was known to be able with music and songs to tame animals, to control many elements of nature like the rivers. So I came up with this idea that maybe Orpheus, I would say, was a kind of control freak. I read somewhere that he was an ascetic, a vegetarian. Also, if he was really in love with Eurydice, when he went down to bring her back from the Hades, Orpheus should have trusted her, but he looked back and she disappeared. I think Orpheus was not able to trust, because he wanted to control everything, his body included. And finally, his pride and contempt was an affront to the gods. Because Orpheus couldn't let go, in a way, the Maenad killed him during a bestial orgy and torn apart his body that he tried as well to control. So he died in the most disgraceful way, and this is my interpretation, I think a bit psychoanalytic. But please let me know what you think as well about this mythological episode of the life of Orpheus. As usual, enough with my talking. I will let you watch the rest of the video. I hope you enjoyed this little chat about this very peculiar painting subject. I will come back as soon as I can with more art on this channel. Thank you again for watching and see you soon. Bye bye.